Namaste everybody. Thank you for joining me for our Thoughtful Thursday. My name's Nityanandadas. I hope everything is going well for you. So today's program will be starting off with some guided meditation and breath work. Then we'll have a wisdom talk. Today's topic is how to be a real perfectionist. I hope that's interesting. And then we're going to be finishing with some Kiritan Meditation. So I'd just like to take you through a little bit of guided breath work to start with. So wherever you are at home, just sitting in a nice, comfortable position, or if you've had a long day and the body's a little bit tired, you may even like to lie down. Obviously making sure that you don't get too comfortable or you might even fall asleep. So this little part of our class to start with, it's important just to set us up to be able to hear, to be able to focus, and to just let all of those activities of the day just drift back and slip into the background, so we can be calm and be present. Okay, so as I mentioned there, just sitting tall. To just give your shoulders a little bit of a roll. It's always nice to just get your posture correct. You can close the eyes. So we're just withdrawing now from the external environment, all the different sounds around you, the different colours, maybe all of the distractions that may be around as well. Some of us may live in places that are a little bit noisy, where there's a bit of nightlife or traffic going past. As we close our eyes and begin to focus on our breath, have the feeling of the body, particularly around the ribs and the abdomen, the upper back, is just becoming a little bit more spacious, a little bit more open up. There's a number of different breathing techniques that we can use, but for all of them it's important to remain relaxed. Don't go out of your comfort zone. Don't feel as though you're going to be straining with your breath at any particular time. And breathing in and out through our nose. This helps to absorb a little bit more prana and also relaxes some of the different glands of the endocrine system that are important for regulating our body patterns. Residing below the navel is an energy center, known in the Orient as the Dantian. This is actually energetically where the breath will begin and end. So visualize as you begin your inward breath, the breath expanding into this point. You feel your abdomen filling up as the lungs expand at the bottom. And naturally, with the rhythm of the breath will move to the upper chest. As you breathe out, the breath will just naturally fall out of the body. As you finish your outward breath, just gently contract the lower abdomen, and you can start that cycle again of the breath. So just keep it quite simple, quite gentle. Important thing here is that you're relaxed with the breath, and it feels like there's a nice rhythm to your breath. The eyes are just hazed and closed very softly. We'll now move to a little bit of mindfulness meditation. So I'll be guiding you through this. This is an important yoga practice, helping us to understand that we are separate from our mind. Our mind can be a great source of anxiety, but it can also be a wonderful friend if we manage it, look after it properly. So now that your breath is relaxed, hopefully the mind has become a little bit more balanced and quiet. You just start to visualize yourself somewhere, maybe sitting next to a river or sitting on the beach, looking out at the ocean. It's nice to do these things in the morning or after a busy day, just to have that influence of the mode of goodness over us, where we're more calmer and more insightful. So like the water in front of you, you're just watching the different rhythms of the water, the different changes in water flow, excuse me, the different patterns. And just as you watch those different rhythms and changes and patterns, you're doing so from a distance, which means that you are observing and watching. Important part of learning is observing and watching. So then the water will have different shapes, different rhythms, different patterns, different flows. Sometimes it's very smooth and calm. Sometimes it's more vigorous and aggressive and almost powerful and violent. Water is a very powerful energy, very powerful element, but also a very calming element. It has these different contrasts to it. So this is what we're also going to be doing with our mind now. So if we just take a step back and from a distance begin to watch our mind's activities. During the day we become so overwhelmed by our mind or controlled, or even possibly at times we become bullied and pestered by our mind. This practice allows us to step back and not become so involved with its difficulties. So as you watched, you'll notice different thoughts and different rhythms, different ideas of the mind, different reflections from the past. Maybe a solution to a little problem that you've got may come to the surface of the mind, a little insight. So whatever comes up there, just watch it. It'll soon be pushed away by a different image or thought, etc. Like a continual stream of phases in a movie, different captions. So the mind is just a storehouse for all our sensory activity. So we just must learn to just watch it at times, particularly when you may be overcome by heightened emotions, stress, or there's lots of overstimulation around you. We may be being forced by our mind to make a decision or to do something when we're not clear. So by watching the mind and being careful of its influence over us, we can have some more clarity and more peace. And to a higher understanding, it also helps us to understand that we are separate from the mind. The mind is a subtle material covering. So there's a mantra in the yoga text, Aham Brahmasmi. I am spirit, not matter. So it's pointing to the fact that there's a spiritual self, a spiritual person in this material body, covered by a subtle body first of the mind, the intelligence, and the false ego, then a physical body over the top. So this helps us to understand, because when we do so, we are non-changing amongst all those changes around us. Aham Brahmasmi. You can even say that mantra yourself quietly. Aham Brahmasmi. Taking a few more long breaths. If you've become a little bit distracted by something externally, or your mind's decided to take you somewhere and you've allowed it, bring it back. Bring yourself back to focusing here on the breath. Taking another 2 breaths. Okay, so we're going to be just moving out of that guided meditation into our wisdom talk. So as I mentioned earlier, the topic is how to be a real perfectionist. I don't know if it's the inspiration or the idea of this talk came from when I was with a few people, and I guess in a bit of a sense of the term, they probably call themselves perfectionists. They're always looking to have everything perfect and nice, and I was feeling a little bit, I guess, uncomfortable in that situation because I'm a bit more laid back, a bit more relaxed, and so I thought, this would be a good topic to talk about, and because perfection is something that we do look for. So I guess what's important to understand in the deeper aspect of that topic of being a perfectionist is that we're actually all, in the deeper sense, perfectionists. We all like to have, an experience that we describe as being perfect, or like a perfect sunset, or have a perfect night out with friends, or the perfect meal, or perfect massage, or perfect weather, whatever it is that you like to do. We all like to find or have that experience that we would describe as being perfect. So we all seek perfection in one way or another, whatever field of life you're in. I used to walk past these particular shops when I was living overseas, and there was a whole row of shops. In some countries, they tend to have the rows of the same shop. Like generally in the Western world, we have a greengrocer, or a hairdresser, or whatever. They're all a mixture, but in this particular country, there was this whole street that had this particular thing that they all sold, and it was wood carving. I quite like wood carving, and some of the pieces that they would carve would just be fantastic. And I would walk past this particular shop every Monday and every Wednesday at the same time. There'd always be the same guy with his chisels, his tools. We'd be sitting down with his, and as each week went past, you could see what he was carving taking shape, taking form. And he himself, I guess, was always looking to carve the perfect item, carve the perfect product, or find the perfect piece of timber that would allow him to express himself perfectly. So we're all looking for perfection in something that we do, cooking, etc., etc. And so we might ask ourselves, so where does this search for perfection come from? Where does it come from? Where does it actually arise from? So, we can ask, does it come from my mind? No. Come from the body? No particular part of the body. Or does it come from something externally? Some people may even say it comes from the universe. But it actually comes from the self. It's one of our intrinsic qualities that we do look for, as well as looking for other qualities like happiness and love. This also comes from the self. So the self by nature is also perfect. So generally lots of people, and it's very common in the modern age, they seek perfection in their bodies. I was looking the other day at something on YouTube. It came up with workouts, and people who work out to sculpt, carve, or another word they also use is to chisel the perfect body, to shape it in the perfect way, to get that perfect look. Some people undergo vast amounts of surgery and construction of different body parts to have the perfect look. Hoping that particular body part, once it looks perfect, or it fits their idea of perfection, will actually make them happy. So we look for perfection sometimes when we're doing physical yoga, like the perfect asana, the perfect twist, the perfect handstand, the handstand that you do when you're upside down and you just feel like you could be there forever. Time sits still. So there's a variety of things that we look for perfection in, a variety of activities. And like I said, it's all dependent on your own individual likes and dislikes. But frustratingly, it also, a perfect moment or a near perfect feeling leaves you as well. It doesn't last. As soon as it comes, or you've worked so hard to get it, maybe like the sculptor or the carver, the woodworker that I was talking about, is all those hours and all that mental work, physical work to get that item looking perfectly, and then there may be one little particular spot that he felt wasn't quite right, or didn't quite, I'd like to change that. So we can never actually find this perfect moment to continually be present with us. It leaves us at a certain point. And we also tend to look for perfection in relationships. That's probably a really big one. We sometimes say, probably all said at a particular time, I've found the perfect person for me. I've found the perfect person to be with. And generally say that pretty early on, maybe after a few months, not so perfect. So that's one place that we also tend to look for perfection in relationships. And in the yoga text, it actually describes it. Relationships can actually be, there can actually be perfection found there. So similar to happiness, perfection is a quality that we're always looking for. And it comes from our inner core, it comes from our inner existence. So what that means is it doesn't come from any particular emotion, any particular idea. It's actually stemming from our spiritual personality, our spiritual being, from the Atma or the Self. So, but the problem with this is our look for perfection within this world. Whatever field you're looking for this perfection in, again, like I've just given a couple of examples there, it's coming from a platform of temporariness. So even if you're looking to have the perfect, perfect shaped jawline, or the perfect nose, or the perfect, chest or back, or whatever you're looking to have this perfection, it's based on something that's temporary and not going to last. That's the problem with looking for perfection in this world, is that it doesn't last. It's not meant to last. It's actually designed that way. So, our cars, we want the perfect car, or some people desire to have the dream home, the perfect home, perfect clothing, dressing the body in a particular way. All these different types of things that we strive for perfection in, are incorrect, because we're looking for this perfection in the wrong place. So the search of perfection is a good one. We should definitely not give it up. And also, in direct relation to happiness, we shouldn't give that one up either. We shouldn't give up that desire, but we should change the environment where we look for it. That's also what is described in the yoga text, that perfection can actually be found, but not through those items or things or that environment that is temporary. So perfection, as I mentioned, it doesn't belong in the material realm, in the material world, but it actually can be found in the spiritual dimension. So if you've been listening to some of these talks for a while, we often talk about two different realms, or two different dimensions. One is the material realm, which we can easily understand because we're actually at the moment within the material world, and with its different activities and the different things that go on here. And we can learn about the spiritual dimension from saintly people and also through scripture. So these two worlds are very different. The spiritual dimension is described as being the perfect place. Perfect because it doesn't have the things that are foreign to us, like anxiety, stress, problems. This material world, it's part of the way it works. It's built into its nature here that you can never actually be really happy here. You can never actually really, get settled. It's probably a good way to put it. You can never really settle here. So the spiritual dimension has perfect knowledge, has perfect understanding, has perfect beauty, has perfect relationships, and it has also perfect people to associate with. And when we're able to associate with those people who are perfect, we can also aspire to have that perfection as well. One of the things that we, as I mentioned just a little bit earlier there, was that we ultimately look for perfection in relationships. That's a big one. I even remember, maybe some of you might remember as well, about 20 years ago there was a TV show, embarrassing I'll say, I used to watch it after school sometimes, called Perfect Match. The Perfect Match. I can even almost remember the name of the guy who was the host of the show. So we look for perfections in a loved one, an intimate friend, the perfect associate. Some people have these reality friends. They consider that to be the perfect associate or perfect friend. And this is also very natural for us to do it, also to look for perfection in another person, in someone else. And the idea that we're looking perfection, or the desire to look for perfection, is an acknowledgement that we actually know that perfection actually exists. You can't look for something if you don't know it exists. Same with happiness. You can't look for happiness if you didn't know that it actually existed. So this is the same with perfection. So the yoga system is designed to actually reintroduce us, because it's not new, it's not also foreign to us, to reintroduce us to real perfection. And if you do study yoga texts, it describes as the yoga text has perfectional stages, that actually through these different systems in the yoga system, one can actually elevate themselves to a perfectional stage. So all of the systems within the yoga system, whether you're doing Hatha yoga or Raja yoga or Karma yoga, Bhakti yoga, they're all about building a person up through the yoga system, through different stages of purification to get to a perfectional stage. So this perfectional stage is achieved by great saints and great devotees. They are called self-realized or perfected souls. So self-realized means that they are actually fully aware of who they are. They're fully aware of their purpose. They're fully aware of the environment they live in and how to live in perfect harmony with the environment that they're living in. So this perfection is also described. Another word for yoga can be, another word that can describe yoga is relationships. And the perfectional stage of yoga is the perfect relationship. And without moving around that topic and being direct, it actually describes it having the perfect relationship with the Supreme Person, who is actually described as being the perfect being, the perfect friend, the perfect associate, the perfect guide, the perfect shelter, the one who is also perfect in knowledge and perfect in all beauty. So just to support that, I'd just like to read a couple of quotes here from the Bhagavad-Gita. which is a conversation between a great devotee and the perfect Supreme Person himself. So it states here, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from all the pangs of material miseries. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me, as pearls are strung on a thread. And another one here, just to follow on. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but no one knows me. So it's hard not to be intrigued or mesmerized by these wonderful verses. Even if someone is actually reading them for the first time, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool, that's pretty far out. And it can be a great trigger or an impetus to want to know more. So it's very important that we actually, if we're seeking spiritual knowledge, we hear it from, as I mentioned, perfect souls or self-realized souls, those who are perfect in the perfected stage of yoga, which is the perfection of relationships. So in this world, sometimes, like myself, I like to go out and be in nature. I like to find places that are quiet, places of solitude, mountains and beaches, and really nice. And you get these really amazing glimpses of nature, and you might even see just something simple like a beautiful tree and the sun piercing through that tree, or the light on water, or even just seeing a beautiful animal dancing through the bushes. So you get these glimpses of beauty and splendor, and it describes in the Bhagavad-Gita that the glimpses that we get here are just a glimpse of all beauty that is emanating from this Supreme Perfect Person. So the Supreme Perfect Person has many, many different names, and some of these names are quite amazing, and we do actually meditate upon them. So the word Krishna, which some people are aware of, points to the fact that in his perfection, he's all attractive. Everything about him is attractive. The way he looks, the way he speaks, his complexion. Everything about him is perfect. There's absolutely no fault there. He's also described as being Atmarama, or self-sufficient. He's not reliant upon anyone else. And another really nice name for the perfect person is Ishvara, which means the supreme controller. And also one of the yoga texts, Ishvara means he who can do whatever he likes. It's a very nice name. So it's certified, through our own experiences, and we can also hear it from great saintly people and read it in different types of scripture, that this material world is a place where we can never find permanent comfort. We might be able to again find glimpses of it or different experiences of it, but in this material world there's so many difficulties that are built into it. Some of the more obvious ones are, old age, birth, disease and death. They are built into this place. And what's interesting enough is that there's lots of research done. There's lots of, we call advancement, particularly in technology, advancements in education and things, but they cannot alleviate these things. They cannot actually eradicate these problems that are here in this world, because they're always going to be built in. Actually, it's by a perfect design that they are actually built into this world. Because this world is designed by a perfect person. So by these difficulties being built into this world, it makes us inquire, or helps us to be stimulated to ask deeper questions into our nature, that where we can actually also look and try and find this perfection that we so desperately look for in the wrong place. So the perfect solution is recommended by the Supreme Person is to actually render Him service. That's the solution to actually all our problems and where we can find perfection. So part of our natural function is that we serve. You know, if we have a pet, have a dog, like if you're out walking in the morning, you'll see that people have to serve the dog. You know, the dog has to stop and do its thing. You've got to serve the dog. You've got to serve the stomach when it growls. You know, I want food. You've got to serve it. You know, so many different things we need to serve. You know, the body gets tired. We've got to serve it. We've got to rest it. You know, there's so many examples. I won't go on any more with those. So the solution is actually to finding a place where there is real perfection is in serving the Supreme Person by rendering loving service. The key word there is loving service. So these great souls who we've been talking about have become perfected by perfecting their service, by perfecting their service attitude or their service consciousness, so that they can actually rise above the difficulties and troubles that are present in this material world. That's how we can actually rise above these difficulties, by changing our consciousness. And that's what the yoga system is designed for. So these great souls are known as Mahatmas, Mahatma. So sometimes that title might be given to certain people, but it actually means a person who's a great soul, a great spiritual realized person on the highest level. So the Mahatmas in this life, they spend their life cultivating perfect knowledge and perfect understanding in their relationship, so that they can then enter the spiritual realm. So the yoga system trains us to change our consciousness, to change our consciousness in a different way. So if we engage in material activities or associate with materialistic type people, our consciousness becomes trained in a particular way, that we hanker for things, we want things, we want to please the body or dress the body a particular way, and we become very influenced to act in ways that are not natural to us. That's one thing that's important to understand when we're in this material dimension, that we act in ways that are very unnatural to us. They're not acting upon our perfect nature as well. So these great perfected souls have spiritualized their consciousness. Their consciousness becomes streamlined, and sometimes, you know, other people like to use this term. It's very nice. Their will or their desire becomes dovetailed with that of the perfect Supreme Person. So their desire, their will, their life, their activities, their goals, their purpose in life is perfect because it's perfectly dovetailed with the will of the perfect person. And this is a part of our spiritual journey to reach this perfectional stage, as it's called, by changing our consciousness, by moving in this direction, moving away from a consciousness that's just focused on I and me. And we can't find real perfection in that because it's a selfish consciousness. So attempting to be a perfectionist in this world is actually a futile activity. We can never find it. And one of the problems that we tend to find when we look for perfection in this world and look for perfection in others is that we unfortunately tend to find fault in them. It leads us to finding fault, and we have unreasonable expectations of other people, and we put expectations that they need to meet our level or what we desire as being perfect, and it puts a lot of pressure on different relationships that we have. So we can, we shouldn't be expecting people to reach our lofty heights. If we're putting ourselves out there as a perfect person, or puts a lot of pressure on other people, and it also creates disharmony in relationships. So relationships can become stressful and demanding. So the idea of the perfect relationship is that when two individuals are centering their relationship on the perfect person, that's how a relationship can become perfect. Okay, so we'll just like to discuss a little bit how meditation and the perfect person are integrated. So when we meditate, as we're going to be doing in a few minutes, we focus on Kiritan Meditation. So by meditating and repeating and hearing the different names of the Supreme Person, that's how we can connect with Him. In different times, in different places, as I mentioned before, there's different meditation techniques that are recommended. So the perfect method for understanding and engaging in yoga in this time is through sound, mantras, yoga sound, or better word is Kiritan meditation, focusing on spiritual sound, transcendental sound. So as I mentioned before, the perfect person has unlimited names because he's got unlimited qualities. And the names like Rama, Govinda, Gauranga, Chaitanya are how we can actually intimately connect and perfect this search and quench this thirst for perfection that we're so desperately looking for. So when we're able to do this, we're able to immerse ourselves in a spiritual environment. And in this spiritual environment, there's all these high expectations are taken away. We can be ourself. That's what it means to be yourself. You don't need to pretend to be anyone to try and meet someone else's expectation. So mantra meditation, focusing on these perfect sound vibrations, help us to actually discover perfection. So I'd just like to finish by reading another quote from scripture. This is from a text called the Brahma Samhita. So you may have heard of devas or demigods. They are empowered beings who control different parts of the elements of the material world, such as the wind and fire. So this is from the Brahma Samhita, which was written by Lord Brahma, who's actually the first teacher of this knowledge in our line of teachers. So it's pretty cool what he has to say, very wonderful. So he states, there are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagavan, but Krishna is the supreme because none can excel him. He is the supreme person and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord, Govinda, and the cause of all causes. So we can gradually tune into this perfection by meditating upon these wonderful mantras, these sounds. And gradually we can experience this taste. So that's what we're hoping to encourage people to do more in their daily life, to use some of your time during the day productively to engage in spiritual activities. They don't have to be very long hours, even just 15, 20 minutes a day at a particular time. If you become regulated to engage and immerse yourself here, it has a wonderful effect. And the more that you do it, the more you'll like to do it, the more you'll be inspired to do it, the more you will want to engage also with other people that do it. And that's how we actually tune into this perfection that we're all looking for. So having said that, we'll move into our Kiritan meditation. So we're going to be chanting the mantra here from Gopala, Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. And we may even add a couple of smaller mantras to the little session here. Sorry, I'll get a bit croaky. So I'll chant the mantra for you twice, and then you can chant the mantra back to me. Gopala, Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala, Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala, Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala, Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala, Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala, Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala, Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala, Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. So I'd just like to offer you my respects. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you very much. And hope you can continue watching these programs.